I remember in must have been like 2000. Did you know they called the early 2000 the aughts?
No, I didn't know
Heard
that.
that? Have you heard that?
No, what does that
You,
mean?
I guess it's a math term for zeros,
Oh, okay.
the aughts, but that, yeah. Anyway, so in the early aughts, uh, you had said to me, like, look, you've got to be willing to let your staff F up on your back.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and, I remember you saying, like, the mature mind gives without remembering and receives without forgetting. And so, like, the staff, I understood, like, give the staff everything, like, give them as much as you can.
Yes.
And I think I operated to the best of my ability with that paradigm.
Yes.
And it only seemed to go just so far.
It only does go so far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now that I'm saying it, I see it.
Yeah. That speaks to the idea that in my estimation, that speaks to the idea that better to stay active, proactive, and productive than to step back and pause and observe, because you might be horrified at your observations.
Mm-hmm.
Like probably my strategy is a cowardly way of saving myself from the misery of the observation
Mm-hmm.
by trying to just remain active, to keep moving. And, people think that it's somehow, heroic, the idea that you keep moving, but it's not heroic. It's survival. It's
Survival.
yeah.
It's my mom's mantra. You just keep putting one foot in front of the other.
Yeah. I think that part of that.
The problem with that, though, is that there typically is no awareness.
Well,
when you keep marching forward, right, you lose, you don't actually pause to be aware and to look at how a lot of these patterns are unfolding.
can be that can happen. That can happen. I think it also has to do with put one foot in front of the other is a good start. Second part of that would be choose a direction. So not only are you putting one foot in front of the other, but you're moving in a predetermined direction of your choosing.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's important. And I think it's important that part of that predetermined destination, that it has to do with the betterment of yourself and others.
Mm-hmm.
That it has to not just include, but it has to largely involve your own progress and the progress of other people. And then I think it's really sound advice. I think, but to simply put one foot in front of the other may not be enough. It may not be enough. You got to choose a destination. Direction's more important than speed. There's no question about that. And pace. And decide what that destination involves. Are you moving toward a destination where both the journey and where you end up involves the betterment of yourself and other people? Then, using that as sort of a blueprint, I would still caution you to be careful to stop and take too long of a rest, because sometimes the observations can be anywhere from disappointing to devastating.
Mm-hmm.
That just that's been my experience.
Do you think that do you have room for new friends?
Sure, Absolutely.
You think that's possible?
Yes. Yes, I do. I do. You know,
Like good, deep, real friendship.
sure, sure. Uh, Absolutely. There's no question about it. Like, um, usually when it's least expected,
Mhm.
usually when it's least expected, like a meaningful friendship is, I don't think is the kind of thing you want to go out there and look for. You don't want to look for it, but I think when you are in your own thinking, in your own mind, in your own thoughts, on a positive track, when you're progressing,
Mhm.
when you're moving forward, like, again, people confuse this with being, upwardly mobile and, your socioeconomic status. I don't mean that at all.
No.
Look, that's a part of it. That's a byproduct of it. That can't help but improve if you yourself are moving in the quote unquote right direction. And if you're doing that, you attract people into your life. You don't attract people into your life in crowds and herds and tribes, but you attract people into your life one at a time. And often those relationships, they develop, they grow, they increase, and they become something meaningful and often lifelong lasting. But I don't think you look for them. I just don't think you look for them. I go back to the myth of loyalty, and I never look for loyalty. I don't even like to use the word. Um, I like to be
Now, I was
loyal.
thinking about loyalty when like when I was thinking about a topic for this, and I was like,
Yeah.
no, we don't touch that anymore.
Well, you know that my whole manifesto on it. Like I would never in my right mind ask for loyalty. I believe that loyalty is something that I do, and then reciprocity happens sometimes. Reciprocity does not happen every time. Reciprocity happens sometimes. And man, it might not even be reciprocity. It might be the other person, the other guy or the other girl. It might be them proactively themselves just being loyal. That's like who and what they are. But I never ask for it. And again, like, I wouldn't ask for friendship. I don't ask for friendship. I think that you need to be a friend. And then the consequence of being a friend is you cultivate some friendships. And again, they don't all work out. But being on the proactive end, I believe, is superior to being on the reactionary end. I think it's just better for your own well-being to be on the proactive end of it.
You know, I think the hardest hit for me, and whether that's staffing or business partners or friendships or even family relationships, is this thought that like we attract what we are.
Yes.
You know, so I'm trying to like surf my consciousness and my experience to see where it is I'm like this. Like, where is it that I'm transactional and opportunistic? And you know, it's like it's a hard hit. And I think what I've realized is, you know, I'm back to this like thought about Jim Rohn, like saying that good is always under attack. And like my current mentor and Jim, I've heard Jim Rohn say, like, you have to defend the good.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, like, if there's some, if at this juncture, like, if I if if I failed, it was like that I didn't defend the good well enough. And I think, and maybe this is a story I'm telling myself, but I think that that defaulted into a lot of like shittiness.
Mhm.
You know, you like, you look the other way, or you like give people the benefit of the doubt, or like you don't see something because you think they're fragile, or like just any number of things.
Mhm.
You know, I know there's no victims. Like
There are, but we call them volunteers.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, like victim and victimizer have the same root word.
Mhm.
You know, it's like you need one with the other. That's, I mean, so I'm trying to like see where it is that, where's the deficit, where's the gap, where's the, you know, and this is with staff, this is with business. I mean, this is all over the place. It's like, it's not just friends, it's like colleagues and staff and all of this stuff. Like, where is the gap? Where, what, you know, how do we pick that up?
So let's look at it from a martial arts context just for a moment. So if I said to you, what have you've been training now, what, 35, how many years?
In
Yeah.
jiu-jitsu or karate?
Martial arts, like how long you've been at it?
I started when I was 12.
Okay. So you've got about 80 years in right now.
So
What do you have?
I'm Santa. I'm a billion years old.
So what do you have in? How many years you have in? You started when you were 12.
Yep. Took a little break, and
Forget
then
that. Martial arts has been in your consciousness since 12.
since 12. Since
Okay.
before 12, really.
And how old are you now, if I might ask? We don't talk about age, but
Yeah, we don't talk about age, but I'm in the relative. I'm closing in on 40 years of martial art
okay.
experience.
All right. So how long is it going to take you to give it all away?
Everything I know about it.
Yeah, yeah. How long is it going to take you to give it all away? So they say like there's Rockefeller or Carnegie or somebody, one of those guys.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They're all the same guy to me.
Carnegie.
Yeah, he spent the first half of his life
Yeah,
amassing
making it.
wealth, and
Yeah,
then the last half giving it all away.
yeah, yeah.
And not easy. Not easy.
Brewster's Millions, bro.
Not easy to give it all away.
Yeah, yeah.
So easier to give all that away, though. It's going to be for you to give away the wealth that you've amassed. You're just never going to be able to give it all away. Like you are sitting on a gold mine. So I would say to you that it really doesn't matter how many times you may feel like you gave where others received, but there was no reciprocity.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter. You're not out of gold. The gold mine is still very full. You're not out of gold. You still have the wealth. You know, guys used to always say like, um, yeah, I'd be going to see my instructor, and some of my friends would be doing other things, and that one of the digs was, like, you're just making that guy rich. You're down there, you're paying for classes and you're teaching classes, and it's a scam. Like, these are the same guys who watched the Karate Kid, the
Yeah,
first one.
yeah.
And at the end of the movie, they elbow the guy next to him and go, it's like a little Japanese guy tricked that kid into doing all the work around the house. And that's the message that they got from the movie. Like, they think that the Japanese guy tricked the kid into doing housework. And that's really not what happened. That's not what happened. So um, I don't think you need to concern yourself with with coming up short. In other words, you're giving what you've got and not always getting it back in return, because that then becomes the very thing that you don't want it to be, which is transactional.
Mhm.
I'll tell you honestly, like I kind of feel I'd much rather be the guy who gave and didn't receive than the person who received and didn't give. Like that makes me cringe, makes me nuts. Like now I don't know if I have consciously made that a discipline, like if that's a decision I've made to protect my ego, or if that's just naturally how I feel. But I'd much rather, much rather feel like I gave someone X and they didn't give me Y in return. And if they feel like, they got over or they tricked me or, I got screwed or whatever, I'd much rather be on that end of it. Look, man, I'd rather be the guy getting robbed. I've seen it. I'm familiar. Like the guy who gets robbed is usually in pretty good shape. Like
Right.
we talked about muggers,
Right.
right? We mentioned muggers a couple episodes back. Like I'm not concerned with muggers. I think muggers went out in the 70s. They're not in fashion right now. But I would imagine that it would be better to be the guy getting mugged than be the mugger more often than not. More often than not. I mean, if it ends catastrophically with bodily harm and injury or death, that's a different story. But I'd rather be the guy who has my wallet stolen than a guy who feels like he's got to steal a wallet. Man, I'm never going to be a guy who feels like he's got to steal a wallet. I have 3 kids, man. I would die 1,000 deaths for any of them. I would, for any, you jump in front of a freight train in a heartbeat. But I wouldn't steal a wallet. I wouldn't steal a wallet. Like I'm not stealing a wallet. It might cross my mind. My kids were hungry and blah, blah, blah. But there's all kinds of other things I can do. I don't want to be in a position of such depravity that I feel like I've got to do that sort of thing. So I would say to you that it's a compliment to you and a credit to you if you're experiencing a pattern of being taken advantage of. Yeah. Listen, man, this
What
isn't.
do you think the guy feel? Like, why do you say you'd rather be? I mean, I think it's assumed, but like, why?
Well, imagine what it would be like to have to take advantage of someone. Like, I mean, I'm going to say it one way and then I'll say it another. Like, in one way, I can't imagine like what kind of a scumbag I would need to be to take what isn't mine, to steal, to look. When I was a kid, I was a shoplifter, right? I like.
I ever told you the time that I got, but I shoplifted twice.
Got caught once or twice?
Got caught twice.
Yeah,
But did I ever tell you the first time?
No, go ahead.
I was leaving grammar school.
Uh-huh.
And, the grammar school was really tough for me because I was zoned for a very wealthy area. So I got to see all the kids with all the stuff.
So you went and stole school supplies?
No, I just went and stole Twinkies after school, bro. So I stuffed them down my pants where they belong.
Yep.
And the guy that owned the deli came back from around the corner and like was like, "What are you doing?" And it's like this guy I would see often. Like I went, it was right next to my grammar school.
Yeah. You disappointed him.
Bro, he slapped the shit out of me. I was 7 or 8. He was like,
he did you a favor, but he did.
Well, he
Get
did do
booked
me.
for it. They
He would
booked
get booked for it now, but like he grabbed it, like he was like, give me it, and
and
went,
go back. If you could go back now and thank him, you would, wouldn't
I
you?
would, because
Absolutely.
the only other time that happened to me, I actually wasn't shoplifting. I was like, someone I was with was shoplifting, but I was watching out for them. And the security guard knew a family friend, and it got back to him. And my family friend came up to me and was like, what the fuck you think you're doing? Like,
Yeah.
don't you know, like, people know me and they know you, and you're embarrassing it. And after that, I never stole anything.
Aren't you
Not-
lucky? Yeah.
What?
Those are that's great fortune.
Yeah,
Now, those are fantastic lessons learned.
that was a good lesson,
Yeah,
buddy.
it didn't go that way for me. I was good at it. And but I did it recreationally. Like it meant nothing to me. Look, I had it, I worked in a hardware store from the time I was 8 years old. I always had money in my pocket. Always had money in my pocket. But being a kleptomaniac was like, I guess I saw Oliver Twist, and I just thought it would be a lot of fun.
You were the
Yeah.
artful dodger.
Yeah, yeah, and I was psychologically disturbed.
Yeah.
So needless to say, I put in perspective what a low life activity I was engaged in, and it was embarrassing. It was embarrassing. I was humiliating myself. I was violating my own integrity and reputation. And I just don't ever want to be in a position where I've got to be the guy who's taking advantage of someone else's either unconscious generosity, you might call it,
Mhm.
or naivete, whatever you want to call it. I don't want to be that person who's exploiting the vulnerabilities of someone else. I'd rather have my own vulnerabilities exploited. I just rather be on that side of it. I really would. I mean,
That was the one way you were going to say it. What was the other way you were going to say it?
the other way I was going to say,
This
oh,
point.
well, I have compassion. I have compassion. Like, I wouldn't want to be myself a scumbag who's got to pick someone's pocket rather than add value to someone else's life. I mean, I really believe that regardless of what's in the pocket I could pick, there's a lot more abundance out there in the value I could add to the lives of others where they're going to reciprocate. I have abilities, I have knowledge, I have skills. There are things that I know how to do. I'm capable. And I feel like everybody has money. Everybody has money. You can get money anywhere. But I can't get what you have anywhere other than from you. You are the only person who has the life's experience identical to your own and who could provide value in direct proportion to your life's experience. And people are willing to pay you for it. I mean, that's the least they can do is pay you for it. So the two ways are, one, I think it's a low life activity to be a thief. On the other hand, I feel compassion for those who believe it's their only option. And in both instances, I'd rather be the one getting robbed than be the robber. Speak.
Well, it's really interesting because I think, I had a talk with someone who I actually provided a school for, right? And, they're not doing a good job. They're really doing a very, very poor job. And, I was like, look, it's time we talk about this. And he tried to like separate the personal relationship from the business relationship. And I said, like, it doesn't work on me, man, because I didn't do it like that. You benefited. And, I think that like a lot of people, and I also realize like I need to look deeply for myself, right? That's why this is coming up.
Yes.
But a lot of people rationalize in our culture this behavior.
Sure. But now let's face this, that
Ugh.
at least entertain that we're responsible for keeping the equities in line. We do have a responsibility for example, I had my abdominal wall torn from my abdominal floor.
Yeah.
It's called athletic pubalgia.
Yeah.
Sports hernia, but it's not a hernia at all. Blah blah blah. Excruciatingly painful. Couldn't do it. So
Yeah.
I went to a doctor and he fixed it. A surgeon. This guy, William Myers, out of Philadelphia, Drexel, whatever. The guy's a master surgeon.
Yeah.
This is his specialty. In one sense, I ought to still be paying the guy.
Yeah.
Like really, like I ought to, like I wake up every day and I checked. Yeah. I had this pain for 18 years. It's gone.
Yeah.
Been gone for like 10 years now.
Yeah.
He fixed it. But he named his price. I paid him and it's over. Like he doesn't call me up and go, hey, remember that time when you came into my office in agony and pain and misery and nobody could help you? And, I fixed you up. Like you got $20. Like he decided it would, you could say that it was transactional.
Yeah.
The guy changed my life.
Yeah.
Like I don't have any kids I named after him, but I think about him all the time.
Yeah.
And sometimes like I feel like sending him a thank you card.
Yeah.
And I don't. I paid him his price. He performed the procedure, and we're not even Steven. We're not. We're just not even Steven. Like all I did was give him some money. This guy got me out of chronic pain, out of agony, out of a debilitating injury. Like it's fixed. And it was worth a lot more than the price I paid.
Yeah.
I don't feel guilty because Dr. Myers said that this is how much it's going to cost. And I brought cash.
Let me ask you something.
And I paid him. Go ahead.
Dr. Myers had messed up that surgery.
No,
I'm asking.
Oh, no.
If he did,
yeah,
you'd be pissed off.
Yeah, I probably would, but it'd be very immature of me because I go into the surgery with an awareness that it's not guaranteed. He doesn't know what he's going to see till he gets in there. Like the MRI tells you only so much. And he made it very clear to me up front that the results aren't guaranteed.
But what if he dropped a junior mint in like?
Yeah, I wouldn't
like Kramer.
There's a whole bunch of scenarios. In which I would have felt like I got ripped off.
Yeah.
So, but he was in charge and he decided what the equities were. Mm-hmm. He put a value on the procedure for his time and he did it. And it worked out wonderfully for me, and it's worked out wonderfully ever since. And I've done a lot with it. So that, which goes back to this. Look, you and I, we go to the bookstore and we both buy the same book. Mm-hmm. We spend $9.95. We each spend $9.95. We each buy the same book. We each read the same book. Well, I take that book and I invest in real estate. I do all the things that the book taught me. And I learned from actually the book didn't teach me anything. It didn't teach you anything either. I learned some things from the book. Now you took the book and what you learned from the book was apply it to investment in precious metals. Mm-hmm. And you turn around and you yield a profit of $7 million. And I turn around and I yield a profit of $3 million. I don't go back and ask for a discount on the book. Like I spent 995, you spent 995. The fact that I turned it into 3 million and turned it into 7 million, that's on you. That's on you.
Yeah,
But
I'm sitting here thinking like,
you don't go back to the guy who wrote the book and go, hey man, I want a discount. Like
yeah,
Gene
no,
got
no,
more from the book than I did.
I understand. I understand. I'm just thinking like in the doctor's scenario, like what if he opened you up and and then said like, all right, you got to pay more money while you're on the table,
Yeah.
or I'm not going to finish it up because
Yeah,
it's more than what I expected.
that would have sucked, but I'd probably have done it. I'd
Uh-huh.
probably have done it.
Look, you know, my one of the things like I was commiserating with my friend is that, you know, they lived in France for a long time, and it's her like submission that like in Europe relationships are different.
Uh-huh.
They're like they're you know they're thought of differently, they're handled differently, they're deeper, they're 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 not as superficial.
Uh-huh.
I'm not moving to France.
Yeah, I've heard this before, but go
Yeah,
ahead.
I'm not moving to France, right? I have no interest in leaving.
Yes.
I do wonder to myself if I think I said this earlier, like if our culture is such that it just doesn't lend itself to to deep, meaningful relationships. And you know what I hear from you, I think they're really valuable strategies. They're really accurate. They're really appropriate. They're good. They're solid. They're great reminders if someone's heard them before.
They're not resonating with you right now.
No, they are. This is what I'm saying. They're great reminders. Like, because you and I have talked a lot about this, and this is why I like prefaced everything that came out of my mouth because it's a slippery slope. I know I'm going, wow, 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 wow. Like, I know that that's part of it. I'm trying to figure it out. I'm trying to like unpack it and see where the deficit or the gap is, or, you know, it's like I said.
So
But there's still a individualistic tone to the strategy.
individualistic rather than communal. Communal.
Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe.
I guilty. And what I would ask you, and I'm not asking you, this is not like, I'm not like playing chess with you. Brother, I love you. Like, I'm curious, like when did you start allowing the idea of like the culture to have such an impact on your well-being? Because I find it on the one hand admirable, because like I lack this sense of I just don't like the culture. It's not it's not that it's not on my radar, but I don't particularly identify emotionally or spiritually with the culture. Maybe a culture, but not the culture. Not this one, certainly not the European one. I just don't allow the way I experience my life to be a reflection of what's going on in the culture. So I'm curious, like, it seems like
I, I,
it's affecting.
I don't think I'm living my life reflecting the culture. What I'm trying to do is not reflect the culture.
Okay, okay, okay.
And there's a, look, man, I'm not jumping off my terrace anytime soon,
I know that. You
right?
already did
I
that.
already tried it. Right?
You might have succeeded.
I might have succeeded. I'm like, it's, while some of it's very disappointing, I'm going to be completely honest with you, right? And
Absolutely.
borderline hurtful.
Devastatingly disappointing.
Some of it is. Some of it is.
Absolutely.
It's a bit of a commentary as well as like, and I said that like I default back into individualism.
Uh-huh.
Like that's really easy for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm fine. Like I got this. Like I'm and I'll continue to move forward in the direction that I've set my mind to, which I thought was a great point. My identity is I'm good. It's just look, man, you said it in the beginning. Like if I'm feeling it, other people are feeling it. They might not say it.
Absolutely.
And that's worthy of a conversation, even if it's on my back,
Sure.
even if it's on my shoulders, because
I
I know
commend you for having the courage, man.
something's going to get said in the conversation that I need to hear for sure. And other people maybe have never heard it, or it pings them as a reminder, and they go like, "Oh yeah, right."
Mm-hmm.
So I'm willing to do that.
Yeah. You brought up a bunch of concerns over the imbalances in a bunch of personal relationships of yours.
Yeah.
Well, the backdrop of all of this is you weren't spending your life in a cubicle 9 months ago. Like you've not lived the life of a fellow who reports to a cubicle and spends an inordinate amount of his time detached, not only physically but emotionally, to the realities of human interaction. You ran a dojo. You ran a culture of your own. You do. I know you do, but you've not been able to do it in the way you've done it and the way that it ought to be done. And it's taking a toll. It's taking a toll because when you're operating your dojo and you're a source, a resource of information and inspiration, and you have this tremendous abundance of knowledge and ways in which others can cultivate skill, and they show up because they lack power. They lack power. They're power hungry. Hard for students to reconcile that there's only one reason why they show up at the dojo. They show up because they want power. Now, people freak out and they go, "Oh, not me." And then I ask, like, "Well, what are you here for?" They say, self-discipline. Well, why do you want self-discipline? Self-discipline is power. It will make you more powerful. Well, I just want to be in better shape. Why do you want to be in better shape? Power. Well, I want to learn how to communicate effectively. Power. Blah, blah, blah. Whatever it is, it's power. People seek power and you've got it in spades. So they come to you. And I go back to the idea of the equities. Like, what do you get a month for a membership?
Between 150 and 200.
So let's call it $175. So $175. Whose responsibility is it to with that $175 investment? Whose responsibility is it to change their life? It's my responsibility to change my life. I enroll in your program. $175 gets me a spot to stand on, to move on, to train on. And I have all these wonderful classmates, and you're orchestrating the disciplined environment. You are the one who's leading how functional and how developmental the environment's going to be. Now, some people think that's transactional, but that's ridiculous. You're getting ripped off. If you allow yourself to believe that someone's getting ripped off, you're getting ripped off. Look, I go up to the guy's house. He's got a truck in the driveway. It says
I
for
can
sale.
feel steam coming out of people's ears.
Yeah, man, no, but he's got a truck in the driveway. Says for sale.
Yeah,
$1,000 or best offer.
yeah.
I walk over, I check. I don't know anything about trucks, but it runs. It runs. And I give the guy $1,000. I don't negotiate. I don't haggle. He walks inside. He laughs, tells his wife that truck wasn't even worth $300. I tell my friends about it. They go, "You're an idiot, blah, blah, blah. You got ripped off." But there's another guy and he's giving away a snowplow. And he gives me the snowplow to put on the front of my truck. And that winter it snows a lot. And I end up making $25,000 because I bust my ass and I destroy the truck. But $25,000 later, I've increased my investment. Who's the idiot? Who's the fool? Who ripped off whom? Now, the guy who thought he ripped me off, because that's his mind's in the gutter. You know what he does? He finds out that I made $25,000 and he wants to tell me that I ought to pay him another $5,000 for the truck. But it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. He was the seller and he gets to manage the equities. He named his price and I gave it to him. Now, this is a hypothetical story. Didn't really happen. Same thing happens though every day in your dojo. Guy comes in, he pays $175, changes his life, was an alcoholic, stops drinking, goes to meetings, goes to class, trains, builds up his health, his self-confidence, his appearance, reads, goes on a job interview, gets a low-paying, low-entry job and climbed his way up the course. He's a success. And he attributes much of that success to the initial $175 investment and the ongoing monthly investment of $175. He doesn't have to come to you and go, "Listen, man, here's a bonus. I did real well." He wants to do that. He can do that. I wouldn't. I don't think it's a good idea. Should send you a Christmas card, give you what's that? Fruit cake. A fruit cake. At the holidays. Yeah. He doesn't need to give you a cut of what it is that he's become. Doesn't have to happen. By the same token, guy comes in, he rolls in the program, he toils, he trains, he's in and he's out. And 3 years later, he's really got nothing from it. Gets fired from his job, kicked out of his house, broken marriage, kids won't speak to him. And he comes to you and he says, "I want a refund. It didn't work." Well, it doesn't work that way either. But I know you'd probably give him a refund. You'd rather be the guy giving that clown a refund than be the guy who gets a bonus from the person who was able to apply his education and turn himself into a quote unquote success. But you're managing the equities. So, we talk about staff, we talk about, the giving away of schools, the setting guys up and all. Like, we did those things if we've done them because we chose to, because we wanted to. I'd also suggest to you that to the degree to which you don't get a thank you, you're getting a lot of thoughts. And most of the thoughts that you're not able to perceive because you're not telepathic, most of those thoughts are positive, but they're guilt-ridden. Is guilt-ridden the right word? Is that correct? They're not void of guilt. They're chock full of guilt, meaning that, you ever mean to thank someone? Have you ever had an experience where you really mean to thank someone and you put it off,
I know I was thinking about this the other day.
and a decade or two goes by, and like,
I had a neighbor.
how the hell do you thank someone
I had a neighbor
20
when I
years
was
later?
a little kid who left me his speakers because I loved music, right? And I just kept putting off saying thank you to the guy. Man, after 2 years, I just could not. It was like, I was like anxiety ridden because
Sure,
I could not, I just kept putting it off.
sure, absolutely.
It's terrible. What a terrible experience that was. And all he did was something nice.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, I don't know if it makes you feel any better, but that's going on. That's going on. Listen, man, there, there's two kinds of people who let you down. Well, the two kinds who let you down. There are two kinds of guys who've let you down, two kinds of people who've let you down. One kind of a person is glad they did.
Yeah.
They get some sort of sick satisfaction out of believing that what they took from you, they've gained.
Yeah.
That what they've taken from you is something that they in fact have now gained.
Yep.
And then there's other people who are just, they feel horrible about it. They feel horrible about it. Like, while we're busy feeling horrible about having not been thanked or feeling like the expressions of gratitude have been insufficient, there's a good chance that some of those kind folks are feeling the way you felt about those speakers, way past the 2-year point.
Yeah.
And I really believe that. That's not like something I've put together to make me feel better about it. I really believe it.
It's a good one.
I believe it, like, so, Thanksgiving, giving thanks, the outward expression of gratitude. So there's the attitude of gratitude, but like, I can't always tell whether or not you have it. Like, until you give thanks, like, gratitude unexpressed makes you feel good, but it doesn't necessarily make the other person feel good. So we call it thanksgiving, the giving of thanks out loud. And if it's not out loud and it's not expressed and it's not perceived, it might give you a warm and fuzzy feeling inside. But the attitude of gratitude is not quite enough if you're looking to have the person from whom you received feel appreciated. Got to give thanks. Give thanks, not just gratitude. Give thanks, thanksgiving. And again, man, like, now we take all that away. I'd still much rather be the person who didn't get the thank you than the person who was so deeply and desperately in need. And so look, I shouldn't make it sound, I don't want to make it sound like when someone gives something to you, it makes you desperate and in need. You might not be at all desperate or in need, and you could still receive graciously.
Yeah, the law of reciprocity. I mean, or like, yeah.
And give thanks.
Yeah, give thanks.
Give thanks. Give thanks. So what I have to ask you is, like, where do we draw the line? Like, where's the limit? I was able to buy the building that I grew up working in as a child. And I worked in this hardware store from the time I was 8 years old till I was like 19, 20. And then martial arts dominated my life, and that's all I wanted to do. And I left the hardware business. But Mr. Hadler, the one of the family members who owned the store, building was built in 1894, by the way, and they had their business for over 100 years. He decided to retire. He was the last of the Mohicans, and he wanted to sell the building. And long story short, we made an agreement. We shook hands that I would pay no more than $800,000 for the property,
Mhm.
or whatever it appraised for,
Mhm.
whatever it appraised for, whatever was lower, the lower of those prices. So if it appraised for 920, I'd still only have to pay 8. But if it appraised for 720, I'd only have to pay 720. Well, long story short, I have it appraised. It comes back at 620. And poor Mr. Hadler almost, he almost dropped where he stood. And, I didn't hold him to it.
You gave
I,
him the gate, didn't you?
yeah, I gave him about 750.
Uh-huh.
I gave him 750. And everybody said I was a fool. Well, the building appraises now for 2.5.
Yep.
I see Mr. Hadler every day.
Yeah.
He would never in a zillion years say to me like,
You owe me 1.5.
yeah, like you ought to give me a little bit more. Like, let's make it a mill. Let's make it a mill. Let's get in the DeLorean, go back in time. Because at the end of COVID-19, man, this building might be worth 500,000. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
But he was in the driver's seat, and he's the guy who decided the equities. Like, he decided what the value and the cost were going to be. And he doesn't later on, at least outwardly, express regret. Now, look, the day Mr. Hadler needs a place to stay, I mean it when I say it. He's like a second father to me. Like,
I know that.
what's mine is his. He moves in a heartbeat. Like, I see, he's the president of the ambulance corps. I see him every day.
Yeah.
I'm back together again with the boss. But again, I think you and anyone listening wants to put in perspective, it's probably not good to get robbed, but I think it's worse to be the robber. I'd rather get robbed than be the robber.
Yeah.
Even if I got wiped out. Man, because brother, you're sitting on a gold mine. You're sitting on a gold mine. Everybody knows it. If you're not careful, you'll be exploited and taken advantage of. This culture that you're talking about, it's filled with people right now who are being very parasitic. There's COVID-19 has brought about leaders, bleeders, needers, and bottom feeders. It's brought out all of that in everyone across the board, not in everyone individually, but if you look at the culture as a whole, there's a lot of bottom feeders. There are a lot of people right now who are taking advantage of a horrible situation. They're looting. There's more than one way to loot. And, we often think of looting as, people had to abandon their dwelling and others go in and rob and pillage. But there's other ways to loot and there's other ways to gouge. I really am guessing that person's in the mind right now of scarcity.
Yeah, no, this is why I was saying, like, yeah. I understand it,
yeah.
But I'm tired of looking and going,
condoning it.
Yeah, like that's right. Like,
yeah.
Look, we'll shut it down after this, but okay. This, it takes courage to have gratitude. It takes courage to express gratitude for the abundance of things that we're blessed with. That's something I work on. But it also takes character and courage to go, yo, you could do better.
It takes courage for Dr. Myers to say, I'm not doing the surgery for free.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it for $5,000.
That's right.
This is my price.
That's right.
And he has to decide what the equities are. And it doesn't make him a bad person if he says, I'm not doing it for free.
Yeah.
It's not happening. I'm not doing it for free, partly because I have too much respect for you. you're going to hate yourself in the morning.
Mhm.
Like you will hate yourself in the morning. You know that. I know that. People know that. Like you've been the recipient of tremendous generosity where you wake up the next day and you almost feel bad.
Yep.
Almost feel like you've been taken advantage of. It's too much. It's too much. There's equities. It's not transactional, but there is balance.
All right,
Look,
love you, buddy.
I
Love you.
worry about you though, man. Like don't we get bitter or we get better. What?
Listen, don't eat too much pie. What? We get better, we get bitter.
We get
I'm getting,
batter. We get batter.
yeah, I'm gonna
We
get
get
some
fatter.
batter, some
We
cookie
get-
dough
we
batter.
get-
Pancake batter.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Okay, love you, buddy. Thank
Love
you.
you guys. Be good.